I was standing in my grand dining room, surrounded by balloons, streamers, and a cake so grand it looked like it belonged to royalty. My wrinkled hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the lapels of my suit jacket, one I'd had custom-made for this day. 80 years on God's green earth. A man might not live forever, but today he could feel like he did. Before I begin my story, I just want to say thank you for listening to me pour my heart out. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love hearing from you, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me more than you know. Now let me tell you what really happened. The caterers had done their job. The silver platters gleamed under the warm glow of chandeliers, soft jazz played from the corner speakers, and the scent of roasted lamb, baked salmon, and my late wife's favorite lemon meringue pie filled the air. Everything was perfect, everything but the people. I checked my watch. 4:57 p.m. The party was to start at 5 sharp. I remember thinking how my grandchildren always teased me about being early for everything. "Grandpa, it's cool to be fashionably late these days," Lily would say, flashing that mischievous grin of hers. Or Noah, always busy, always distracted, would laugh, "I'll get there when I get there, old man." But this time it was my day. The old man had been there, early as always. 5:10, 5:30, 5:45. Nothing. No familiar faces walked through that door. Not Lily, not Noah, not Abigail or Sam. Not even a call, a text, a message. At 6 p.m. I called each one of them. Voicemail. One after another. I checked my phone again. Nothing. The screen mocked me, glowing blankly in my trembling hand. It was 7 p.m. when I finally understood. They weren't coming. I didn't cry. Not then. 80 years on this earth teaches a man how to hold his tears in check, at least in front of strangers. I waved off the caterers and paid them their full fee. Told them to pack the food and give it to a shelter. The look on their faces, pity mixed with discomfort, made me sick to my stomach. I walked out of my own party, and there on the curb, as twilight painted the sky, sat a man I'd never seen before. Mid-30s maybe, unshaven, clothes ragged, cradling a cardboard sign, homeless. God bless. I don't know what made me stop. Maybe it was the way he looked at me. Not like I was an old fool in a tuxedo with a deflated balloon dragging behind me, but like a man who still mattered. I sat down next to him. "Rough night, old-timer?" he asked. I laughed so hard it shook my bones. "You have no idea, son." We talked for hours about life, about loss, about how sometimes the ones you give your whole heart to are the first to turn their backs on you. His name was Michael. By the time the moon hung high, I had made a decision. I took out my phone, dialed my lawyer. "Stephen, draw up new papers. Everything I own. The house, the savings, the shares, the bonds, I want it all transferred to this man. His name's Michael." There was silence on the line. "You sure about this, Henry?" Never been more sure in my life. And as the stars blinked down on us, I looked over at the stranger who now held my fortune and smiled. "They thought they buried me," I whispered. "But they forgot I was a seed." And that's when my phone buzzed. A message from Noah. "Happy birthday, Gramps. Sorry, caught up in stuff. Hope it was a good one. Love you." I stared at the screen, then at Michael, and I knew there was no going back now. It wasn't always like this. You see, I wasn't born into money. Grew up in a one-bedroom shack with a dirt floor and a leaky tin roof. My father worked in the mills till his fingers bled. My mother took in laundry, scrubbing so hard her knuckles cracked open in the cold winters. But there was love. Lord, there was love. I was the youngest of 5. Sickly small, the one they didn't expect to make it past 10. But my mother believed in me, called me her little miracle. I remember her prayers, whispered by candlelight as I coughed my lungs raw. I survived. And when I did, I promised myself I'd climb so high they'd never see the top of me again. I fought tooth and nail. Took any job I could get my hands on. Shined shoes, delivered newspapers, even sold peanuts at the ballpark. Anything to scrape together college tuition. Met Margaret in my second year. Red hair, laughed like a wind chime, eyes so green they made emeralds look dull. She was trouble from the start. And God, how I loved her. We married with barely 2 nickels to rub together. Built everything from scratch. A small house, then a better one. I took risks in business, some that nearly broke us. But Margaret was always there, pushing me, believing in me when no one else did. We had a son. David. My pride and joy. And for a while, life was good. Better than good. The kind of life you dream about when you're a boy sleeping on a dirt floor. But life is a cunning thief. It takes when you least expect it. David married young, a woman named Laura. Cold as ice, that one. Never liked me much. Thought I was too rough, too old-fashioned. She gave me 4 grandchildren, Noah, Lily, Abigail, and Sam. For a time, they were my light. Summers at the lake, Christmas mornings with too many presents, bedtime stories about pirates and buried treasure. They made the years easier to bear, especially after Margaret died. But as they grew, things changed. They got busy. New friends, new cities, new lives. Calls became texts. Texts became silence. I'd leave voicemails, long ones. It's your old grandpa. Just wanted to hear your voice. Weeks would pass. Months. But I never stopped loving them. You don't stop loving your blood. When my 80th approached, I planned that party like a fool. Ordered everything they loved. Lily's favorite lemon cake. Noah's favorite scotch. Sam's jazz band. Even a video montage of old family clips. I told myself they'd come. Of course they would. Blood is blood. But the world doesn't work like that anymore. They forgot. Or maybe they just didn't care. And there I was, left with cold lamb, unopened gifts, and the sharp, unrelenting truth of old age. You can give your heart, your years, your money, but you can't make people stay. And Michael listened. Saw me. A stranger on a curb. A man with nothing to lose. He told me about his own life. A sister lost to cancer. A wife who left him. Jobs that slipped through his fingers like sand. Nights under bridges, days scavenging for scraps. And yet he still laughed. Still believed in people. When I told him my story, he didn't pity me. He clapped me on the back and said, "Hell of a life, old man." That was enough. That was everything. So when my phone buzzed with that too late message, something inside me hardened. The ties that bound me to those who didn't care snapped clean. Michael was family now. And as dawn broke, I made a vow this fortune wouldn't rot in the hands of the ungrateful. It would build shelters. Feed mouths. Save someone like me or like Michael when the world turned cold. But first, there was one last thing to do. Because as I sat on that curb, a shadow fell across me. I looked up. And there, standing awkwardly, guilt-written all over his face, was Noah. "Gramps," he said softly, I messed up. I stood slowly, my old bones aching, my heart a storm. This was the moment. I stared at him. Noah. My first grandson. The one I held in my arms when he was just a bundle of pink skin and soft hair. The one who called me Gramps before he even said Daddy. The boy I taught to fish at the lake, whose laughter used to fill my empty house every summer. And there he was now, standing in front of me at the curb like a scolded schoolboy. His eyes darted away, unable to hold my gaze. A man of 35 reduced to a stammering child by the weight of his own guilt. "Gramps," he began again, shoving his hands deep into his coat pockets. I messed up. I didn't say a word. Not right away. I let the silence stretch between us like a tightrope. Let him feel it. Every heavy second of it. Michael sat up from his spot, looking from me to Noah and back again. He must have sensed the gravity of the moment because he stood quietly and gave me a small nod, stepping away toward the bus stop across the street. I appreciated that. For a man with nothing, Michael had more grace than anyone I'd known in years. Finally, I spoke. "Messed up, did you?" Noah swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobbed in his throat. I was at work, Gramps. Big project deadline. And then Lily said she might come by, but she got stuck in LA. And Abby, well, you know Abby, she's awful with dates. Sam's overseas on that trip. And I should have called. I should have been there. I let out a long, bitter laugh. "You should have been there?" He flinched at my tone. "I planned the party 6 months ago, Noah." 6 months. I ordered your favorite scotch. Had the band play your grandfather's favorite jazz number. I printed out photos of you as a kid for the slideshow. I sat in that damned house in a suit too tight for my old bones, waiting for you. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I sat alone, Noah. Alone in a house I built with my own hands. A house where your grandmother and I raised your father. Where I rocked you to sleep during thunderstorms. Where I kept the porch light on for you every summer, waiting for you to come running up those steps. His face crumpled. Gramps. I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. Things just got busy. Life, eh? Busy? I spat, cutting him off. Busy. That word. It had become the anthem of this generation. An excuse sharp enough to slice through bonds thicker than blood. I took a step toward him. Noah, I'm 80 years old. I don't have a lot of busy left. He wiped at his face, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be. The boy who used to chase fireflies in my backyard. The boy who used to beg me for bedtime stories about pirates and cowboys. I get it, he whispered. I get it now. I shook my head. Do you? Because here's the truth, folks. It's easy to be sorry when you're caught. It's easy to show up when you realize the inheritance might slip through your fingers. It's easy to whisper apologies when you fear the door might finally close. And part of me wanted to believe him. Wanted to take that old man's pride and tuck it away, to forgive him because love makes fools of us all. But then I remembered sitting in that empty dining room, surrounded by decorations and untouched food, staring at a phone that never rang. I remembered the crushing loneliness. And something inside me broke. I changed my will tonight, I said, my voice flat and cold. Noah's eyes widened. What? I gave everything to a man named Michael. You passed him on your way here. Sitting right there on that curb. Noah's face turned ghost white. Gramps, no. You can't. You can't do that. I was late, yes, but I'm here now. I came, didn't I? You raised me, you can't just... I cut him off with a wave of my hand. I can. And I did. His mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. I felt strangely calm. As though I had finally dropped a burden I'd been carrying for years. And then came the thing that twisted the knife. Noah's expression changed. The grief was still there, but something else slipped in behind it. Greed. Desperation. Not for me, not for his Gramps, but for what I had. For the money, the estate, the stocks, the house. He grabbed my arm, his grip too tight for a grandson's hand. Gramps, listen. You don't know this guy. He could be a con man. He could steal it all. You can't just hand over the family fortune to a damn stranger on the street. I smiled then. A small, sad smile. I didn't give it to a stranger, Noah, I said quietly. I gave it to the only person who made me feel like a man tonight. Not an old relic. Not a walking wallet. A man. His grip loosened. You'll regret this, he hissed. I met his eyes, calm as a lake. No, Noah. You will. He turned and stormed off into the night, his figure swallowed by the shadows. And I stood there, alone again, but somehow freer than I'd felt in years. Michael returned a few minutes later, a steaming cup of coffee in his hands. Didn't mean to eavesdrop, he said sheepishly, holding the cup out to me. Figured you could use something warm. I took it gratefully. Thanks, son. We sat in silence for a while. Just two men, one with nothing and one with everything. And yet, in that moment, I wasn't sure which one was which. Finally, Michael spoke. You sure about this? About what you did? I stared at the rising steam of the coffee, thinking about empty phone calls, missed birthdays, forgotten holidays. About how blood doesn't always mean family. I'm sure. He nodded like he understood more than he let on. You could have given it to Charity, he said, almost teasing. I chuckled. Charity didn't sit down and listen to an old man tonight. He looked away, eyes shining. I won't waste it, Henry. I swear. And I believed him. We made plans. We'd use the money to build a shelter. A place for people like Michael. A place where no one would be left sitting alone on their birthday. No one would go hungry. No one would be forgotten. It wouldn't bring back Margaret. Wouldn't heal old wounds. But it would be something. Something good. By dawn, the papers were signed and my fortune was no longer mine. And it felt right. I returned home as the first rays of sunlight painted the sky pink and gold. My house, once a symbol of pride, now felt empty. Not in a bitter way, but in a freeing one. The phone sat on the table, a blinking light signaling missed messages. I didn't check them. I poured myself a glass of scotch, Noah's favorite, and raised it in a silent toast. To new beginnings. And for the first time in years, I slept soundly. But of course, life wasn't done with me yet. Because 3 days later, a letter arrived. No return address. The paper was old, the handwriting familiar, and when I opened it, the world shifted beneath my feet. Inside was a letter from Margaret, dated 20 years ago, and what it said would change everything. The envelope trembled in my fingers. I stared at the paper, it yellowed around the edges, the handwriting unmistakable. That looping script belonged to her, Margaret. My Margaret. My heart pounded so loud I thought the old walls would hear it. Henry, the letter began, if you're reading this, I am gone. Forgive me for the secrets I held. I wrote this 20 years ago on August 14, 2005, the day I got that diagnosis. My throat closed. 20 years. My mind spun back across 2 decades to that sweltering August day when that brown envelope first slipped under our front door. I tossed it aside as junk mail. She'd picked it up later that evening, her face drawn. Never told me anything. Never admitted what she knew or what she feared. The letter was tucked away along with hurts, regrets, truths too painful to share. But now I held it. I could not bear to tell you. You had just begun to rebuild. You'd lost everything once before, in your job, in your father, in your pride. And I saw in your eyes again the same hollow look. I thought if I tell him I'm sick, he'll spend his days nursing me, hurting himself again. I couldn't do that to him. I loved him too much. She continued, you see, Henry, the doctor found a small mass, something that might be nothing, but I felt it in my bones. I took the treatment quietly, prayed the tumor away, and it disappeared for a time. I thought we had more years. But it came back, and I knew the time was short. I wrote this letter as a promise that if I ever died, you'd know how much I loved you, even if you never understood why I kept it from you. Tears welled. The betrayal. The love. For summers of clarity. For years when she waited for the day I'd discover the letter, and I never did. She wrote of her pain. Of the kind of love that sacrifices without asking for thanks. Of the fear that if she told me, she'd rob me of my dreams once more. And below, in the same trembling handwriting. If you find this after I'm gone, know this, I loved you enough to spare you the sorrow. And I hope from wherever I am, you forgive me. My chest ached. I slumped back into my chair. The Scotch glass rattled against the wood table. Forgive her? Forgive her for loving me? I read it again. I read every line until I could taste her voice, smell her perfume, feel her hand in mine. Her words wrapped around me, comfort, sorrow, absolution. And then another note squeezed into the bottom corner, smaller, almost erased. P.S. If you ever doubt that your children or grandchildren love you, remember this, your legacy is not what you own, but what you give. Always give more love than you receive. I dropped the letter. My gift to Michael, my blessings for someone I didn't know. The words hit me like a thunderclap. She'd spoken from beyond the grave, guiding me still. I'd spend all chapter 2 giving everything away because it felt right, but this was her final instruction. More than money, more than pride. More love. Emotion twisted inside me, grief, regret, love, and a strange exhilaration. I stood and paced the living room, hands brushing old frames on the mantel. Photographs of easier times, us dancing at our wedding, David's first steps, Margaret giggling in the garden. I touched each picture, reliving them. Losing Margaret had hollowed me out. Now, her words filled the space. My phone buzzed in my pocket, new messages. Likely from grandchildren. From lawyers. From the world. I ignored them. Let the moment stand. My priorities clarified. I called Michael. His voice was quiet when he answered. Mr. Henry? Everything okay? I swallowed hard. I found something. I told him the news, the letter, her words. He listened. Her words, that's powerful, sir. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I'm changing plans. I want more than a shelter. I want education. Scholarships. Therapy. I want to give people the tools to rebuild, not just beds on the floor. He sounded excited. That's life-changing, Henry. Because that's what she asked. And goddamn, I'm going to honor her. He promised to start researching. Within a month, he'd locate nonprofits, schools, therapists. He'd identify people like him, like me, veterans, ex-convicts, formerly homeless. He'd pit them into training programs. He'd let them tell their stories, mentor others, pay it forward. He'd build a foundation, the Henry and Margaret Foundation for Second Chances. Yes, it would cost. Yes, it would require trust. Yes, there'd be strain, but love wasn't easy. Not if it demanded sacrifice. Days passed. The settlement cleared. Press inquiries fizzled out when I declined interviews. I preferred quiet. Let the foundation speak for itself. Let Margaret's memory breathe life into something good. My solitude fell apart, though, that first weekend when unexpected faces appeared. Lily, Abigail, Sam, they all found their way back. Noah came again, too calmer, humbler. They knocked softly. They apologized more eloquently this time. Lily pressed her face against the glass, tears pooling. "Grandpa." She stepped inside, folded into my arms. I held her, saw Abigail slip in behind, eyes red. Sam lingered at the door, an ocean's distance between us. Noah joined them, voice low. "Henry, can we talk?" He gestured toward the living room. I nodded. We sat. I looked at each of them. These were my family, or at least, the family I'd thought I had. I cleared my throat. "I got a letter. From your grandmother. She wrote it 20 years ago. She lied to me about her illness." Lily's bottom lip trembled. "She loved you, Grandpa?" "She did." I swallowed hard. "She asked me to give more than I received. To build more than I inherit." They listened, heads bowed. Even Sam's arms uncoiled from his sides. "I've started a foundation," I said. "Not for us. Not for inheritance. For people who need a second chance." Silence. "No," Lily whispered. "Yes, Grandpa. That—" She reached for my hand. "That's why she loved you." They began to cry. Apologies poured out. Regrets. "We were idiots," Noah said. "We got caught up in our lives. We forgot what you meant to us." I closed my eyes. Voices melted together. We wept as one family, old wounds sewn together by tears. And then I spoke, with gentle firmness. "I don't want your money. I don't want your inheritance. I want you to help volunteer with the foundation. Spend time. Teach. Mentor. Use what you have time." Because that's what she would have wanted. They agreed. They enrolled. We started planning events. Lily handled social media. Abigail helped organize. Sam drafted a blog. Noah joined board meetings. My heart swelled. Margaret's ghost hovered near, nodding, smiling, her mission accomplished. Love given. Legacy planted. But life found a way to complicate things still. 2 months later, the IRS came knocking. They flagged the transfers. Questioned the will's validity. Suspected coercion. They claimed tax fraud. One bland, official letter turned into a stack of papers thicker than my Bible. My hands shook again, not with grief, but fear. My lawyers assured me it would pass. "You acted rationally, Mr. Henry. At 80, you can still make decisions. You were of sound mind." But the next card arrived. Someone anonymous filed a claim, alleging undue influence by Michael. That I didn't know what I was doing. That a stranger, despite my own volition, had given me poison. I thought of Michael, a man I'd known for 2 days. But in that time he'd seen me, heard me, respected me. And I saw him, heard him, respected him. That counted for something. Could I prove it? Memories. Notes. A witness from the cafe where we first met. But legal battles, especially ones fought by cold bureaucrats, are drawn out, tiring. Expensive. The press smelled a scandal. Elderly tycoon fleeced by homeless panhandler? A headline asked. Michael's face stared back from some tabloids. Shadows under his eyes, ragged coat, sign in hand. Not flattering. My grandchildren were unnerved. "This is messy, Grandpa," Abigail said. "Maybe we should reverse it." A silence followed, heavy with disbelief. Reverse it? Undo everything? Water down Margaret's last message? I looked at my youngest grandson, Sam. He nodded slowly, head bowed. Even Noah looked shaken. I swallowed. "This is why she did it," I said softly. "Because easy is a lie. Because the world tests what's real. If it falls apart under pressure, it wasn't built to last." But Grandpa, Noah protested. I raised a finger gently. "Noah, remember your grandmother's words? Legacy is what you give. We're not giving money alone. We're giving hope. Even now, by standing by this, we're giving more." They looked at one another. Saddled with doubt, burdened by bureaucracy, yet unwilling to lose. Then Lily spoke up. "We help. We fight. We volunteer. We testify if needed. We aren't family because of blood. We are because of what we do now." I beamed at them, this ragtag group, this reassembled band. Let's do it. The battle ahead would be ugly. Legal fees, public scrutiny, emotional strain. We would stand in courtrooms, answer reporters, prove my mental state, argue Michael's authenticity, handle pain. But we would do it together. And on the eve of our first board meeting, just before dawn, I walked out to the foundation site. A rundown building next to a community center. We'd gutted it, painted it, planted flowers, named it the Glory House. I stood in the empty main room, sun filtering through dusty windows. "Margaret," I whispered, voice cracking. "We're doing it." A bird chirped outside, and I felt, for the first time in a long time, that I was exactly where I belonged. The grand opening of the Glory House was supposed to be our triumphant moment. Instead, it felt like walking into a war zone dressed in a tuxedo. Crowds gathered. Volunteers bustled. Cameras clicked. Reporters pressed hot mics in my grandchildren's faces, asking questions about old man scammed by homeless stranger and money laundering conspiracy. I watched them sweat and truthfully answer, Lily stammering out how they'd rediscovered real purpose, Noah standing strong, Abigail and Sam sharing tears and dry facts about Margaret's letter and our vision. Michael hovered at the edge, quiet, polite, dignified. I saw flashes of doubt in some eyes. Could this man really be the true hero? Or was he a grifter smiling long enough to milk an octogenarian? Our lawyers whispered and paced, incessant warnings of subpoenas, depositions, tax audits, and every time their voices ticked higher, I felt a coldness settle in my chest. The foundation had now become a lightning rod. Just before we stepped to the podium, I pulled my family aside. "We promised her purpose," I said. "So don't let fear drape over that promise." Lily clutched my arm. "We won't, Grandpa." Noah nodded, eyes steely. "We got this." I swallowed the knot in my throat and stepped out, greeting the crowd. "Welcome to the Glory House," I began, voice strong. A round of applause rippled over us. "This is not a monument to my mistakes, not an advertisement for my tears. It's a home for people who deserve a second chance." I paused, feeling brutally alive. "And I want to introduce you all to someone who gave me a second chance." I turned to Michael. "Michael." A hush fell. Michael came forward. His hands shook slightly as he adjusted his coat. He took the mic. "I'm not fancy," he began. "I don't have letters or degrees behind my name. But I know what it feels like to walk the streets, to be invisible, to wonder if the world even knows you exist." He paused, eyes sweeping the crowd. "Henry didn't just give me money. He gave me trust. And that trust lit a fire in me that could never die." People listened. Some wondered. Some softened. By the end, tears streamed down many cheeks. And I couldn't have been more proud. Photos flashed. Speeches ended. Volunteers handed out tours. And yet, even as success glittered, I could feel the undercurrent. The foundation's mission had begun, but so had the battle lines against bureaucracy, doubt, public opinion. A reporter cornered Noah afterward. "Mr. Williams, how does it feel being disowned by your grandfather only to fight in court to claim his money back?" Noah stiffened, jaw clenching. "I'm not claiming anything back. I'm fighting for something bigger than inheritance. I'm fighting for honor, for family, for purpose." The reporter scribbled furiously. Sam, caught by another shouting camera, found his voice. "We made mistakes, but we're fixing them every single day." That night, we held a small gathering at home. Lily cooked spaghetti, Sam baked brownies, Abigail organized scrapbooks of our journey so far. We sat tight in the living room, lights low, music soft. "This feels like home again," Lily whispered. I looked around at them, my broken, healing family, and felt hope. But life, relentless and cunning, made sure a moment of warmth didn't last long. 3 days later, a fax arrived. Overnight. Long, legal-looking text. The heading, Internal Revenue Service, Examination Notification. They alleged misuse of charitable funds. They wanted records going back 5 years. They questioned the origin of every penny transferred to Michael. They flagged the foundation structure as irregular. They suggested criminal referral if wrongdoing was proven. The room fell silent as we read it. I felt each heartbeat heavy in my chest. There we were, just a family trying to do good, suddenly facing allegations like grifters ourselves. Noah slammed his fist on the table. "They won't stop us. We'll fight it." Abigail trembled. "This could bankrupt us, my college fund, Sam's projects, Lily's, everything." I felt the dread knot tighten. The lawyer arrived next morning. "It's serious," he said, suit charcoal, eyes cold. "IRS doesn't play. They want documents, emails, bank statements. You'll need everything Michael received, how it was spent, who had access. You'll need to show intent, transparency, legal structure. Michael sat near me at the kitchen table. I watched him calm, present, dignified while I poured coffee. I placed my hand on his. Son, thank you. He met my eyes. I'll do whatever it takes. And so the war folded out day by day. Binding deadlines. Mountains of paperwork. Interviews. Audits. Press swirling again. IRS investigates second chance charity, panhandlers protest, or criminal scam? Within a week, our volunteers began whispering fears. Would donors pull out? Would government shut us down? Would my grandchildren's names be tainted? The pressure bent us. Noah missed work. Abigail lost sleep. Lily had panic attacks. Sam stopped showing up at meetings. They carried guilt and shame for my blessings. They saw me as both a hero and the spark that lit this battlefield. I watched them. Watched those I'd hurt who'd come back, shoulder to shoulder. And I felt immense pride, but also responsibility. We were bringing them into a fight they hadn't bargained for. I called my lawyer. Set up weekly family lawyer calls. Tell me everything. I want to understand every line the IRS demands. I've lived 80 years, I can learn. And they won't use silence against us. He nodded. It was a fight, dirty and emotional and draining, but necessary. The real blow came 2 days later. A knock on the door. 2 agents, federal badges glinting. We need to speak with Mr. Henry Williams and Mr. Michael Young in a non-public setting. Just like that, the foundation was public enemy number 1. I looked at my grandchildren standing behind me. Noah swallowed. This had become real. More than papers or speeches, it was a reckoning. I faced the agents. We'll cooperate. That afternoon, Michael and I were each separated into small rooms. I sat across from Agent Ramirez, a woman in her late 40s, crisp suit, eyes impatient. Mr. Williams, why did you transfer your entire estate to Mr. Young? And why was that not disclosed by multiple intermediaries? I exhaled slowly. Because he treated me like a man, not a relic. Because his story reminded me of my own. Because he earned it. She scribbled. But he's unknown. You have grandchildren who likely need this inheritance more. They need it too, just not in bank accounts. They need purpose, trust. They're part of building something bigger. Silence. Then, we'll be following up. My time with Michael was different. Compassionate but skeptical. They asked about his background, his intentions, his finances, his mental state. He answered honestly. No defamation, no notes hidden. Yet as he spoke, I knew theirs was a system built to detect fraud, not to uncover shared humanity. Days crawled by. Court dates tentatively scheduled. Media frenzy rising again. Our family pushing through, but the weight was showing. Drawn faces, pale complexions, loving tension. Then came the small victory. A judge granted a request to freeze the foundation's assets, but not shut them down entirely. They gave us 2 months to comply with document production before any referral to criminal court. News sources spun it. Foundation under scrutiny, but still in operation. A fragile win. We returned to work. The building remained open. Volunteers trickled back. But we all understood. One misstep and it would all crumble. That night, I found myself in the empty main hall of the Glory House. Moonlight streamed in. I reread Margaret's letter, voice shaking. Legacy is what you give. What we were giving now wasn't just money. It was persistence, love, strength. I whispered to the empty room. We're not giving up. We're giving more. And as the moonlight hit the walls, I saw shadows that didn't scare me anymore. The fight would continue. But now I knew worth isn't measured by how easy it is, but by what you stand for when the walls are closing in. The morning light crept through my bedroom window, illuminating a city still asleep but for the distant hum of traffic. I sat up, fatigue clinging to my bones like old ivy. The weight of the past weeks pressed heavy. IRS notices, court deadlines, peace shattered in our home. But beneath it all, an ember glowed. Hope. I forced myself into my suit, the one Margaret had picked out for our 50th anniversary. It was tight across my shoulders now, but I straightened the tie. Today, my grandchildren and I would testify in court for the first time. Downstairs, I found them, Lily at the dining table editing documents, Abigail pacing, reciting statements, Sam quiet, sketching logos for the foundation, Noah in the kitchen, brewing strong coffee, his arms folded, jaw tight. I felt pride swell. We'd promised to fight together, and here they were, delivering. Noah looked up, a ghost of his younger smile flickering. Ready? I nodded. Let's give them what they need. At the courthouse, the air felt colder, sterile. Grand floors of polished marble. Agents and lawyers shuffled papers. Reporters waited outside media rooms. Our group stood together, a family bound by love and purpose. They separated us during questioning, me first, then each grandchild, then Michael. I watched them go into small chambers, wincing each time the door clicked shut. My own session was brief, a respectful judge grilling me on my motives, my mental state, my understanding of the will and foundation. I answered calmly, honestly. No hesitation. I spoke from Margaret's letter, from the promises I made that night on the curb. I said that my grandchildren supported me, they were part of the mission, that sharing purpose was worth more than inheritance. They let me go. Back in the waiting room, I found my family assembled, tired but upright. Lily's eyes were red, but they burned with conviction. They asked about your health. When I raised an eyebrow, she chuckled sadly. You said, my health is my purpose. They didn't expect that. Abigail crossed her arms. They grilled about whether we were coerced. We told them the truth, we came back when we believed again. Noah drew in a slow breath. We gave our testimonies. On record. They looked at me expectant. I reached for their hands and squeezed. Thank you, I said, voice cracking. I've never been more proud. We went home without reporters, without fanfare. The war wasn't over, but for now our unity was stronger. In the weeks that followed, our lives resembled a marathon no one trained for. Court appearances alternated with foundation events, food drives, mentorship meetups, volunteer orientation. IRS audits kept us all nervous, documents tracked, expenses logged, every penny scrutinized. Michael was tested hardest. Digging into his past, job gaps, former address, each report became fodder for suspicion. Yet each time he rose to meet it. He led workshops at the Glory House. He mentored recovering addicts. He built programs. He earned every skeptical glare with integrity. One evening, after a long community meal, he and I lingered over empty bowls and coffee-stained tables. Volunteers had gone home, but a few patrons, once homeless, stayed late, talking quietly. I caught his eye. He gave me a nod, and I realized this fight, this struggle, was part of the healing. Not just for us, but for everyone involved. That night, I slept better than I had weeks. Then came the blow. A national news site ran a headline, IRS seeks criminal charges against Williams Foundation. The piece alleged suspected fraud, undue influence, criminal conspiracy, a call to action for federal prosecutors. My mailbox filled with letters, condolences, fear, support, donations, and a handful of requests to spend the money elsewhere before it's too late. Our volunteers wavered. Some offered to resign to protect the organization. Donors froze contributions. Fear spread like wildfire. We held an emergency family meeting in the empty main hall of the Glory House. I walked in, wallet tight, heart tighter. Noah stepped forward. We can't back down. Abigail nodded. We're needed here. People are counting on us. Lily held back tears. But what if the foundation collapses? What if they take everything? Sam, quiet until then, looked at me. Grandpa, can we keep going? I felt their doubts ripple across the room. Yet beneath those fears I sensed a foundation stronger than walls. I walked to the center of the room underneath the arched windows. Look around, I said. Everything here is built by hope. It stands because people chose to believe. Because we showed up, not because we were perfect. They hushed. I continued, Margaret didn't ask for perfection. She asked for love. And she asked for purpose. This fight isn't about money, it's about change. About proving we're not afraid. That when those who need help stand up, we stand with them. Noah's face hardened with resolve. Abigail's eyes filled again. Lily exhaled, back straightening. Sam nodded, soft but certain. We decided then, we would keep going. We would keep serving. We would take the fight into the courtroom and into the community and keep building. 2 months later, we appeared in court again for a major hearing. It was our showdown. Testimony from volunteers, recipients of aid, Michael himself, even a miracle story, one man who regained custody of his child because of the support we provided. I watched Michael deliver his closing argument in court. I asked for help once and found a family. Please grant us the chance we've earned. My grandchildren sat among the audience, tight jaws, hopeful eyes. When we left, the media whispered again, but this time with suspicion tempered by the testimonies. We had shifted the narrative. Then the day came, the judge's verdict. Late afternoon. We gathered in the hallway of the courthouse as the judge entered. She read her decision: no criminal charges, no gross fraud. A penalty fine small, plus an order to strengthen oversight and transparency. A sigh of relief seemed to release from our group. We embraced. Tears fell. The seasons of shadow began to recede. That night, we returned to the Glory House. An impromptu celebration, volunteers, recipients, donors all lumbering in with cakes, pizza, a band. We danced awkwardly to laughter and gratitude. It was messy, real, beautiful. I pulled aside Michael, watching him greet people, shaking hands, exchanging hugs. He looked like he belonged, not a stranger anymore, but the man who saved me just as much as I saved him. He smiled, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Henry," he said again, softly. I patted his shoulder. "No, Michael. Thank you for being the spark." Morning came again. I woke earlier this time, not with dread, but anticipation. A soft warmth in the house. A peace I hadn't felt in decades. I walked downstairs to find letters on the counter. One caught my eye, a handwritten envelope from the IRS. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside, confirmation of compliance, a note of commendation for our transparency, an encouragement to continue our good work. Margaret's letter in my mind. I let myself smile. I texted my grandchildren. Breakfast downstairs. Big news. They descended in ones and twos. Lily with coffee mug, Sam with sketchbook, Abigail in sweats, Noah in a pinstripe suit. He'd come straight from work. I grinned. Guess who's back in compliance? They stared at me, half expecting bad news. I held the letter out. They read. Lily shrieked and pulled me into a hug. Abigail punched the air. Sam grinned shyly. Noah nodded, solemn, then hugged me hard. We spent the morning making pancakes. Blueberry, banana, chocolate chip, messy and chaotic and perfect. Life hasn't been easy since Margaret wrote that letter. There've been fights, tears, questions. There's been loss. My health failing, grandchildren leaving for jobs and school, Michael still carrying past scars. But here we are, united, fighting for something bigger than ourselves. Every time I walk into the Glory House, soft voices of gratitude greet me. I meet people who say, "I got off the street because you believed in me," or "You gave my child a future." And I feel that ember glowing again. I learned something real during this journey. Legacy isn't measured in wealth, it's measured in impact. In lives touched, trust given, sacrifices made when no one's watching. And most of all, I learned that family is not just blood. It's people who show up. It's love that acts. It's hearts that refuse to close. When I get tired, I sit in that curbside spot with Michael. We laugh, sip coffee, talk about plans, scholarships, expansion, housing. We consider a second location in another city. Our dreams change with our power to dream. My grandchildren are there too. Lily at the podium, Abigail organizing volunteers, Sam designing new branding, Noah handling legal compliance. And sometimes late at night, when I'm alone in my room, I reread Margaret's letter. For simple lines, legacy is what you give. I pray she sees us. I pray I did right, because that's what she asked. And oh, did we give? The morning of the Foundation's one-year anniversary dawned crisp and golden, sunlight streaming through the arched Glory House windows like a benediction. We had planned a celebration, a community feast, speeches, music, stories of lives changed. But deeper than festivities, this day carried weight. It would prove that our journey of faith, sacrifice, and forgiveness was more than a moment, it was a movement. I woke early, as always. My bones ached, my breath came steady but slow. I dressed carefully, one of my gentlest suits, the one Margaret loved on me most. I pressed a crimson carnation to my lapel. A quiet tribute to our wife, mother, grandmother whose loss had catapulted this mission of hope. Downstairs, the house buzzed. Volunteers arriving with tables, flowers, banners. Sam pinned balloons with his shaky teenage hands. Lily tested microphones. Abigail orchestrated deliveries of hot coffee and pastries. No one said so, but I felt the electric undercurrent. This day mattered. Noah stood by the door, coat pulled off, tie loosened, clipboard in hand. He glanced at me with that familiar mix of determination and pride. When I met his gaze, he nodded. Our journey, from empty dining room to courtroom battles to this moment, had forged a bond stronger than inheritance or titles. I stepped outside onto the front porch of the Glory House. Behind me, the banners waved. In front, people gathered. Former residents, volunteers, neighbors, even a few reporters. Old skeptics now smiling. A hush fell. I raised my hands and silence was born. Welcome, I said, voice steady. 1 year ago today, this house was nothing more than a dream backed by a promise. I paused, swallowed the lump. A promise from a wife, a mother, a grandmother we lost, but whose love never left us. I pointed to a framed photo we'd hung behind me, Margaret standing in the garden, warm smile, bright eyes. Lily stepped forward then. She spoke of the work we'd done, hundreds housed, dozens trained, stories rewritten. And this, she said, gesturing to the crowd, is the family Mom and Grandpa built. Abigail and Sam followed with testimonials from volunteers and community members. Funny moments, moments of heartbreak, moments of triumph. Tears and laughter wove together through the hall like ribbons. When Michael stood to speak, I almost didn't recognize him. Dressed in a sharp suit, clean-shaven, his posture straight, his voice commanding respect. And he commanded it. 2 years ago, he began, voice rock solid. I was that man sitting on a curb. Old, alone, invisible. Then Henry wrote me into his future. We built something together that no one believed in. Today, I stand here not because I owe him, but because together we earned this. Our collective hope. Our promise to the forgotten. He paused, looking at me. This man is why we believe in goodness again. I felt his words like embers in my chest. I swallowed hard, then spoke. Legacy, I said, is not in what we leave behind. It's in what we carry forward. It's in each person who stands up and says, I was loved and now I love in turn. Look around. This is love spoken loud. I stepped down, moved to where our grandchildren waited. Lily reached for my hand, Sam tugged at my sleeve, Abigail hugged me, Noah placed his hand on my shoulder. They weren't just my lineage, they were my lineage renewed. The crowd cheered. Music began. Food and laughter exploded in joyous waves. We hugged, posed for photos, shared tears and embraces. But amidst the celebration, a soft tug pulled me back. The memory of that curb, that night, that decision. I found Michael by the back gate, watching children chase balloons. He caught my eye, gave me a nod. I smiled, so much to say, so little in words. He came over. We did good, didn't we? Yes, I whispered. Because of you. Because of us. He shook his head. No, because of her. I followed his gaze beyond us, to that portrait of Margaret, to the people around, to the life reclaimed. Yes. Later, after the feast, after the music died down, after the balloons drifted and plates were cleared, the 6 of us sat again in the main hall, the old man, for grandchildren, and a stranger who became son. I looked around, chest full. I want everyone here to know my heart belongs here. With you. With them. With us. I touched Michael's arm. No stranger here. Then to my grandchildren, no broken bonds here. Lily lay her head on my shoulder. We're family, Grandpa. Abigail nodded. By blood and by choice. Sam smiled shyly. Because of purpose. Noah took my hand. Because we showed up. We sat in silence, a circle of hearts beating together. Weeks passed after the anniversary. The foundation stabilized, the IRS file closed with commendation. We gained new donors, expanded programs, inspired sister foundations in other cities. The glory of hope thrived. And at home, I found peace. One afternoon, Noah knocked and entered, folder in hand. Grandpa, he asked. I've thought about the future. About my life. He looked at me, no guilt, only hope. I lowered my cup and smiled. I want to become a lawyer, he said. I want to help with the foundation. For real. I'd like to take on the legal oversight, finish what we started. Tears pricked my eyes. Go for it, I whispered. Lily wants to be a social worker. Abigail wants nonprofit management. Sam smiled shyly. I'm working as a designer for another center. They found me. That's wonderful. They were becoming someone new. Footprints on the foundation's future. That year, on my 81st birthday, they surprised me at the Glory House. My old bones moved slowly through the halls they'd built. Photos lined the wall. Before-after shots, smiling faces. I paused before a photo of a young father cradling his newborn, someone we helped. I blinked back tears, not of sorrow but of triumph. We gathered in the main room, a simple cake, framed by candles. My grandchildren stood behind it. They sang "Happy Birthday." The melody wavered with emotion. When they finished, I blew out the candles. The flame flickered and died. Like grief, out went my sorrow. In burned hope, Noah stepped up, placed a hand on my shoulder. "We're here today to give back to you, Grandpa. To celebrate you and the foundation." He gave a speech, thanking me, sharing their gratitude, pledging more to come. Lily handed me the first issue of a growing newsletter, stories from volunteers and residents. Abigail read a passage. Sam revealed a new design project, and Michael unveiled an expansion proposal, the Glory House East, in another neighborhood. I looked at them, this living legacy of Margaret's letter, of the curbside moment of love transformed. I felt tears, soft and real, for the whole story, beginnings, betrayals, abandonment, redemption. And the lesson came like a sunrise: your worth isn't measured by what you own or how many show up, it's measured by who you become in their absence, by who you choose to give to a stranger, by the echoes of love you leave in people's hearts. Because if you can bloom when left alone, you become a seed that carries spring forward. I raised my glass, not of scotch this time, but of water. Simple. Clean. To strangers become family. To love become legacy. They raised their glasses in return. And I knew I was at peace. My grandchildren abandoned me on my 80th birthday. So I gave my fortune to a stranger. Yes. And in doing so, I found a family I didn't know I had, built something that would outlive me, and discovered that the greatest fortune is love given and hope renewed. Margaret's words were true: legacy is what you give. I gave mine away, and it came back in ways more beautiful than I imagined.